Welcome back, Post-Pollock viewers. Dave Epstein here from the Post-Pollock firm. Today, we are here to talk about social media. And not just social media, but social media in the courts. I'm sure many of you, most of you, maybe all of you have heard that there was a big verdict reached out in Los Angeles involving somebody who claimed that, I believe it was Meta and Google and others, addicted them to social media. In other words, it's not just that people became addicted, but the idea is that people are being intentionally addicted by these companies. Let's see it's a CNN report about the verdict, and then we'll talk about it.
A verdict has been reached in a potentially landmark social media addiction trial. Meta and YouTube essentially on trial. CNN's Claire Duffy has the latest. And Claire, what is the verdict? I understand you've got the news.
Well, Boris Branna, Meta and YouTube have both been found liable in this case for negligence and how they've operated their platforms, building these features that have been called addictive of young people, and also, found liable of failing to warn users of the risks of their platforms. So really a significant moment here. The jurors have decided that Meta bears a 70% sort of responsibility for what happened to this 20-year-old plaintiff. YouTube bears 30% responsibility, but they have found that these companies were responsible for addicting her and causing harm to her mental health. And of course, this does set the stage for potentially similar verdicts in hundreds of similar cases. So massive moment here. We are awaiting more information about what exactly the financial damages could look like in this case. But this is, again, a landmark moment where both Meta and YouTube are being found responsible, being found liable for building addictive features that have harmed the mental health of young people.
All right, Claire, huge news. Stay with us. Let's bring in former state attorney Dave Ehrenberg to talk about the legal implications here. Hundreds more cases, Dave. Walk us through this. As you mentioned, this is a bellwether case. So explain to us what that means for these other cases.
Right, Brianna. So there's about 10,000 similar lawsuits. They're bundled into multi-district litigation across the country. So you have all these groups, parents, school districts, attorneys general, they're all over the country. They're putting their cases together to consolidate them so they could follow with this lawsuit. But this is the bellwether. This will serve as a real tough point for Facebook and Google. They're going to have to live with this because the outcome and the damages will serve as a template for how the rest of these thousands of cases are litigated or settled. And I suspect they will settle. This is, remember, it was TikTok and Snapchat that settled with these plaintiffs before trial. And Facebook and Google said, nah, we're going to take our chances, roll the dice. Well, they rolled the dice, and it came up snake eyes.
Snake eyes indeed. We just got a statement from Meta saying, quote, "We respectfully disagree with the verdict and are evaluating our legal options." To what Dave said just a moment ago, they are likely to appeal this decision.
Okay, folks, we have more commentary by lawyers, but I suppose that's what I'm here for. I didn't realize it was YouTube, my media. Hopefully none of you are addicted. I suppose if you were, I'd have a lot more subscribers. But let's think about this for a second. Is this an accident that people are becoming addicted? And, somebody might say, oh, come on, this isn't like heroin. This isn't like getting somebody addicted to alcohol or sex or gambling, but it's any type of addictive behavior. It's addictive behavior is something that occurs in certain parts of the brain, and it tends to be, for things like this, more prevalent with young people, and they're more influenced by it. They can become more devastated by it. And what are the damages? We have suicides, you have cyberbullying, and people who react horribly to that, which they should. You have people who can't really function or work because they're on their phones all day. And it's not just YouTube. It's not just Meta. It's not just X. It's everything. It's all the podcasts. Everybody's like barraged with information. And then when it comes to social media, it's also interactions with others. And it is, while they purport to have started to regulate it like Facebook or Meta now, I keep calling it Facebook. I probably will. Just they call it Facebook. They say they're regulating it. Sure they are. You know, X, when Musk showed up and said he was going to clean it up and make it free for First Amendment. Now it's, it's the hotbed of hate speech, and there's all this stuff on there. If you ever go on there, it's frightening what you see on there. He says he's helping free speech. Well, what's happening is people are disseminating false information, maybe on larger things, maybe about individuals. Sometimes people who are not public figures, and they just trash them. Then you have the other aspects of social media, like the chat business, the stuff that people post on Facebook, the videos they watch on Facebook, and you could spend every waking hour looking at, pick your poison, Facebook, YouTube, whatever, and just watching it over and over again. Now, the real gist of these cases, it sounds to me, and I have not looked at, obviously they say there are thousands or tens of thousands of cases. I am not surprised. I'm surprised they allowed these to go to trial. I would have thought that it might have gotten dismissed beforehand. And not that I want to see that happen, because I do think this is a major problem, and relying upon these industries to fix it themselves or monitor it themselves is not unlike asking the cigarette or tobacco industry way back when to start telling people about how dangerous cigarettes were. And a lot of people, myself included, are likening this case to the tobacco cases. For years and years and years, anybody got sick from cigarettes, you really didn't have a chance to go because you voluntarily started smoking. Over the years, people started to find out more and more, including there were some insiders in the tobacco industry who, I think some of them showed that they were putting extra nicotine into those cigarettes and deliberately addicting them. And why shouldn't they? Their product is something they want you to use all the time. They want you to just don't stop smoking. And they had doctors endorsing these cigarettes back even when I was a kid. Then all of a sudden, they found that there had been a deliberate effort by these tobacco companies to make sure they had a nonstop rolling number of people who would be addicted to their products and keep using them, and to hell with them if they get sick or die, because there's money to be made in this business. Well, how does that work in social media? I don't know what the damages were in this LA case. In other words, did she commit suicide? Did he commit suicide? Was there a suicide attempt? Was there a mental breakdown, intentional or negligent infliction of emotional distress? Hard to say. But the underlying circumstances were, as I understand it, that it wasn't just that the person got addicted, but because these social media, these platforms are set up to make sure that they get as many people watching it nonstop for as long as they can. In other words, to get them addicted. They have studies, and they look at the algorithm. They study demographics. Between Google and YouTube and everybody else, if you go on Google, if you look at your Facebook page, whatever you just looked up on Google is now popping up on your Facebook page or on YouTube or whatever. They're sharing data about you. And what they're trying to do is feed you individually as much as they can that they think you will be interested in. And then demographically looking at people as a whole, age range, the gender, the race, whatever your thing is. And they try to focus on getting as many groups to watch these channels, these platforms, to engage in chatting, posting, watching as often as possible. That is what they perceive to be their jobs. Now, again, like, the tobacco companies, they say, well, these aren't the same. They're socially responsible companies. I would beg to differ on that. They're selling a product, and they're selling and making themselves gazillionaires doing it. Guys like Zuckerberg, they are becoming fabulously wealthy. Their companies are doing well. And if you don't think that they have marketing people and even psychologists on staff who have figured out how to make sure you never turn your face away from your phone, even if it means losing your job, even if it means losing your marriage or not watching your kids. And it really happens. I don't think I need to tell you this, folks. I think everybody knows somebody who can't stop watching social media. So what are the legal theories, though? I don't know all of them yet. But it sounds to me the way they described this case, and I tried to dig out the complaint and whatnot, it was like a products liability case. And that's what leads me to believe these are all going to be mostly state law cases, because most products liability law has come from the states. Products liability law, there's many layers, many aspects to it, but it's based basically where you put out a product to consumers that is inherently dangerous the way it's designed, and you don't put in safeguards and somebody's harmed by it. You don't do things to prevent it from causing the potential harm it can cause. I don't know what sort of evidence they dug up on YouTube and Meta. I'm sure there was plenty. I'm sure they fought these plaintiffs tooth and nail too, knowing YouTube and Meta, they're going to. They're going to throw an avalanche of lawyers against you, and they're going to try to crush you. And I guess TikTok, and I forget who else settled with them, but YouTube and Meta decided to go to trial, and they got hammered. So start to think about it. Where could this lead if everybody in the country who claims to have been addicted by social media? It's going to be a lot of people. I mean, I know so many people who spend all day like reading Instagram and YouTube or watching it, watching podcasts, and everybody sends them a message or a little clip, and it's nonstop. It's like, enough already. Go read a book or even watch. All of a sudden I'm saying, hey, why don't you just watch some TV? Good old TV. But that's where it is. So you have these companies that know their product can be dangerous. They've known for years, for example, that these platforms have been used to exploit children, whether it's chat rooms, whether it's Facebook, wherever you may find somebody and may be able to influence them there. They know that they've been used to commit scams and frauds and everything else. So are they liable for that? Maybe, maybe not. But when it comes to this addiction business, where that goes to the heart of their business model, because if people aren't watching or using that app, they are not making money. Plain and simple. They only make money when you are sitting there staring at their platform all day long. So how do they get people to do that? Well, I assume, and again, I wasn't at the trial, but I will be looking into this, and I'm sure I'll give you an update, that they dug deep into the programs, the marketing programs, what they were doing inside Meta, for example, to make sure that they had as many people with a Facebook page or a Meta page as they possibly could, and to have those people as actively involved as they could, engaged at all times. So it's always on. You know, your Facebook page on your iPhone, it's always on. And make sure that it's not only always on, but make sure that they never stop looking at it. Products liability laws, to me, it seems like it would have been a tough road to hoe. But if you look at the way they went after the tobacco companies after years of saying, what do you mean? The tobacco's not the ones who picked up smoking, and everybody knows smoking is dangerous to you. Well, everybody apparently didn't know. There was a whole generation before me. Again, they had doctors showing up on TV ads saying, this is my favorite cigarette. And everybody thought, that's just, even if it's wrong, it's puffery, as they say. It's not puffery, it's misleading the people who are going to use it. Or it's putting out a product that you know is inherently dangerous and not giving warnings. If you smoke, folks, if you look at the side of your cigarette box now, there's all those big giant warnings. It's dangerous for pregnant women. It can lead to lung cancer and death. None of that was on the packs. And they stopped allowing them to advertise on television. For generation after me or two generations after me, you've never seen an advertisement on TV for a cigarette, have you? The federal government outlawed it. Now, still people smoke and they still become addicted, but it's going to be a lot harder now to sue the cigarette companies because they have not actively sought to recruit customers. Will social media go the same way? I don't know, but if this is any indication, they better shape up soon, and they better figure out how they extract themselves from this situation, unless they're going to look for a federal, maybe some federal law be passed to protect them across the states, although that would raise all kinds of issues as far as states' rights and things like that. They may just employ team after team of lawyers to go fight every case they can, but that's going to really put them behind the eight ball, and it's going to be difficult to fight all these cases, especially if they start allowing verdicts, and most importantly, especially if on appeals to whether it's state Supreme Courts or the United States Supreme Court, they are winning or they are losing. Whether the courts, the highest courts of whatever jurisdiction they're in, agree with the idea that this is a dangerous product, it's being put out to the public, and that these companies can be held liable for it. I am not Nostradamus, and with the current state of, courts and everything else, I can't really tell you how that would play out on appeal. But this is not an ambitious start for social media companies, and if they're smart, right now they're trying to come up with some change to their platforms, whether it's warnings, whether it's regulations, whether it's having more monitors on that sort of lets young people know that this can become a problem. It's addictive, but it's not just young people. I mean, people my age, people at every generation are all day on these social media platforms, whether it's they're watching podcasts or whatever else they're watching all day. And now it's sort of come home to roost, and Facebook, Meta, and YouTube and the others are all going to have to come up with some kind of plan, because otherwise they're going to start getting whacked, and sooner or later it's going to become painful to them no matter how much money they have or expect to make. We will give you an update when I find out more about these other social media lawsuits, and when we get more information on any appeals. I'm sure they're going to appeal this, and once we do, I'll give you an updated video. I may be more than one, because I can see this thing will keep going and going. In any event, folks, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something today. Please hit like and subscribe. Please leave your comments. Always love to hear from you, and we will see you next time. This is Dave Epstein signing off for Post Pollock. So long.